What's up, YouTube? This is a build guide update for our Elemental Hit Ascendant. And as with all my build guide updates, I'll just talk about my experiences with it in the previous patch and then tell you guys about how I think it's going to fare in 3.7 League now that the patch notes have dropped. So in 3.6, boy, did I play this build a lot. It was actually the build that I used to do most of my magic finding very early in the league at the beginning of Synthesis, and I used it to get a Deathless Cortex in order to, do my Uber Elder and all of that. It's probably the build I actually played the most in Synthesis League. And I messed with different ascendancies. I think I was actually an elementalist slash slayer ascendant at the beginning. The reason I wanted to be elementalist was so I could be immune to reflect, and part of my atlas strategy was to shape up maps 5 tiers, and that randomizes the mods that are on the map. So if I was Pathfinder Slayer, I couldn't do the Elemental Reflect. I eventually switched into Pathfinder after I had a whole bunch of maps and could control whether it was Reflect or not. The footage in the background is actually me playing it as a Deadeye, and so a question I get a lot is, can you play it as Deadeye? What are the differences? And I'll just talk about my experiences between Deadeye and Ascendant. So Deadeye is much faster, but it's much more squishy. And yeah, overall, if I was going to play the build again, I would play it as a Scion. I like the ability to be fast still, but then maybe gear swap and be super tanky. I actually did a version of the build where I had 2 Might of the Meeks at the very beginning. Now, that's not the build that I recommend. The build that I recommend is in the full written guide, which will be linked in the description. But I always try and mix things up and try out different items. I think I tried out the new Slayer gloves, which let me mess with my ascendancies a little bit. Tried dropping Resolute Technique to pick up Elemental Overload. Speaking of dropping Resolute Technique or Elemental Overload or changing ascendancies, in 3.7, everybody wants to know, hey, can you play the build as Slayer? I guess there's a lot of hype around Slayer. They're doing accuracy changes. They've changed Immortal Call as well, so now we no longer do the Soul of Arakali Pantheon for the stop taking damage over time recently. That was like a little trick we did previously where, Blood Rage would be running, but then even if you stop it for an instant with Immortal Call, you get that increased leech rate. No longer is that trick available. I think I'll still use Soul of Arakali just because, against single target where I need the leech rate, you won't kill anything recently, so your Blood Rage will eventually drop off. But you can always mix it up. There's different options. Try out Brine King, maybe Solaris, Lunaris. All the choices are pretty good. Those pantheons are meant to be flexible and give you some individual choice there. But yeah, I think Slayer might be a cool choice. I think you'll get less passive points, but you'll get better Overleech, maybe better Culling Strike. I don't know exactly how I would build it, but I definitely encourage people to try out different versions of the build. If you want to now drop Resolute Technique and the tree has changed a little bit, if you want to now pick up Elemental Overload or something like that, then be a little bit crit based, you can do something like that. If I played the build again in this upcoming league, I'll probably just still go Scion, probably still just go Tomb Fists and kind of the standard version of the build. That's my recommendation for new players trying out the build. But I always encourage people to mix things up and make tweaks to it and make it your own. Anyways, this video is getting pretty long, but feel free to leave any questions. Instead of doing it in the comments of the YouTube video, put it in the full written build guide thread. That way other players can, see my responses to those questions, because there's a chance that you're not the only one with that question. And yeah, best of luck in Legion if you guys choose to use Elemental Hit, and I will see you guys in the next video.